it's Ryan Tierney from Lean Made Simple. We're on day 2 of the 2-second Lean Summit, and this next interview is by Paul Akers and Mr. Umemura. Mr. Umemura is the founder of a really high-level lean organization, Mifune Corporation, based in Japan, Tier 1 supplier to Toyota. And I visited Mr. Umemura's factory on 3 different occasions, and every time I came away from that factory, my mind was blown. So the information that Mr. Umemura and Mr. Paul Akers are going to exchange on this presentation is mind-blowing, and I really hope you enjoy it.
Okay, everyone, we're going to start, and this is going to be very quick. So I need all your attention. Everybody ready? Here we go. So, Mr. Umemura is a very close friend of mine, as well as like a father figure. And as I've told you, most of what I've learned and conveyed to most of you, I've learned exclusively in Japan, but then the majority of that information has come from Mr. Amazawa and Mr. Umemura. When we take people to Japan and we take them to Mifune, I say, you only need to come one place for one day and you will learn everything about the Toyota production system at one company. You don't need to go to Toyota, you don't need to go to Lexus, you don't need to go anywhere else except for Mr. Umemura's company. It is so outrageous. Every time I go there, and I've gone there 100 times, my mind is blown. I will explain. So, not all of you are going to have the opportunity to travel around the world and go to Mifune in Japan. You're not going to be able to get on the bus with me, and you're not going to stand there when Mr. Umemura walks on, and you're not going to walk into his Obeya room, and you're going to see his open office where everyone's working together on hundreds of new Toyota parts that are produced to absolute perfection, 8 million parts a month with 0 defects. You're not going to see them pull orders absolutely perfectly because of their amazing processes, and you're not going to watch in amazement how Toyota comes up by the second, basically, and the trucks pull up and they're loaded, so everything is just in time. You're not going to see a world-class die change, as Mr. Amazawa explained, that Toyota's doing in an hour, and Mr. Umemura is changing 5 1,000-pound dies in 5 minutes, hundreds of times a day. You got it? You don't need to go anywhere else. This is it. And if you don't get it coming here, you're never going to get it. It's breathtaking. I have chills when I look at it right now. We are a joke, an absolute joke. We are sloppy from start to finish compared to what's going on here. Perfect parts, 5 minutes, first and last. It's hard to get your head around it. They check every first part that comes off and every last part to perfection. Within 11 times finer than a human hair, every part is flawless. They never talk about productivity. They only talk about defects and quality. That's it. Now, Mr. Umemura has taught me many things, and now, hopefully, 2 words are going to come to light for you. Mr. Umemura, tell me about Muda.
ただいまポールに紹介されました
Paul, thank you so
梅村
much
って言います。
for introducing me. I am Umemura. Nice to meet you all.
ポールとは本当に長い付き合いをしておりまして、
Yeah, Paul and I worked so long
先ほど
together.
から、言われるように日本へ来れば必ず我が社を見ていただく、それも1日たっぷり
And
と見ていただ
Paul
く。
brings me people like you from all over the world to my company and spend one day, which is very unusual.
実はね、これはポールだけなんです。私は他の、方が大体、見学1週間に大体3日3回ぐらいはこういう見学をやります。
I'm a little bit well known. A lot of people ask me if they can visit my company, what we are doing.
それは大体2時間ぐらいで終わるようにしてる。
Normally, I accept only 2 hours per
ま
visit.
た、こ 国内の絵は絶対に見せません。
And I do not show my plant to anyone if you are Japanese. Only exclusive for special people like you.
まあそれぐらい我々は、シークレットしながら、商売をしておるということですね。
So this is not a hobby, it's my serious business.
で、私もですね、初めてもこれで45年です。
So I'm the founder of the company and I've been doing this for 45 years.
最初は、6人で始めた会社。
I started my business with 6 people, including myself.
今はトヨタのティア2ですけども、ティア2とティア1の間に今我々はおりますね。
So we call ourselves
1.5 時です。
Tier 2 company, but we are so proud, we are so confident to tell you that we are 1.5 supplier of Toyota,
で、昨日
which doesn't exist in the real world, but that's what I'm thinking, telling myself, I'm 1.5.
昨日ね、飴田先生が話しましたように、我々は飴田先生、トヨタのティア2ですので、やはりトヨタさんの仕事をするということは、今の TPS は絶対に必要な。
So when I work as the pyramid, within the pyramid of Toyota, as a tier 2 company, without TPS, Toyota Production System, our business will not exist.
だからそれをどこまで理解するかというのはそれぞれの会社の違い。
So as you may understand that all suppliers are doing TPS, but the level could be different.
ですから、TPS の一番大きな柱であるジャストインタイムと自動化というのは絶対に欠かせないわけです。
So as Mr. Amezawa explained yesterday, without 2 pillars of TPS are a must. We have to do this, which are
それは何かと言いますと、
ちょっと待ってください。Just in time and 自動化。
ジャストインタイム、自動化。わかりますか？
Automation with a human touch, the ability for the machine to detect that there's a defect and stop. This was Sakichi's idea.
だからぜひそんなところをですね分かっていただけると、また機会があったら話します。で、今質問あった無駄という話。
So let me answer to your question. What is 無駄 to me?
これは我々はお客さんからも盛んに言われます。無駄とは何ぞや。
Since I started my company,
無駄というのは
無駄
いくら
was
でもある。
ultimate goal to eliminate.
僕はいつも言うんです。毎日会社1回必ず現場行きます。
So even today I'm 81 years old, I still go to the company and at least one time I go to the gemba,
それぞれの職場で必ず一つは無駄を発見する。
and I always find a minimum of 1 muda from the gemba every day.
だからその無駄というのは非常に小さな無駄です。
And those mudas are very tiny.
ね、だからそれを見つけ出すレベルというのはやはり全然違います。
So I'm very confident that even small muda, it's so visible to me.
通常無駄というのは我々は7つの無駄があるという7つある無駄。
You're already familiar with 7 mudas or 8 wastes.
まず一つは在庫を作る。
So overproduction is the biggest sin.
在庫はお金です。
Inventory is your money.
いいですか？物が寝てるんじゃない、お金が寝てる。
It's not your products. Inventory is your money.
が作りすぎ。
And overproduction is
言わ
the
れて
main.
ないものを今日は暇だから作ってしまおうという。
Today we have extra time, so why don't we produce extra more for tomorrow? That's overproduction, which you never do.
それから次に運搬の無駄。
And delivering.
ね、物をこちらへも運んだりあちらへ運んだり。
No
お
value
金になら
added.
ないこういうつまら
Deliver.
ないこう動きというのはこれ我々は運搬の無駄という。それからもう一つはいいですか言って全部。
Is that okay?
長ついて
No, it's very good. Okay, so, okay.
Sorry, it's Japanese thing.
The first takeaway for me is here he is, a man who's producing 8 million parts a month with 35 defects a year that get through to Toyota. And his number one focus is, I can't hear it, I don't believe it. It's Muda. So what is he doing? Is he walking around with some graph or some spreadsheet or some crazy convoluted concept? He's walking around looking for Muda. And his people, his culture, is all looking for why. Nande, nande, nande. Now you're going to find out why. You ready? Tell me about
なぜ
Tell me about
無駄というのは
Sekisho
関所
Idai.
依頼か今度関所依頼ねこれについてはですね、
Paul san, you are funny. You want me to talk about sexual idai, huh?
これはですね日本流で砕いたものを言いますと小さな
You know,
改善
small things. Small
小さな
kaizen.
1秒な
Matter.
り
1
個
second. 1 piece of muda.
ね
Eliminating 1 second
それを改
matters.
善することが
And
結
just
果的
you
には
pile
大きな
up,
改善につ
pile
なが
up,
りますよという
pile
こと
up.
です。
Then as a result, you are going to do the big kaizen. You are able to do the big
よ
kaizen.
く私は言うんですけども1日1個余分に作
So
ろう
I tell my people every day, try to find one small muda, but every day.
だけどもその1個は1日目はできるしか
Yeah,
し
it's
これが
easy to do it one time, one day.
それが1週間10日1個続けて作りましょうと言ったら多分できない1週間ね1個余分作れと言ったらできないです何か変えてあげないと
So it's very difficult to constantly make things or doing monozukuri manufacturing without changing and try to do better work. It's almost impossible, especially to do it for 1 week continuously.
だから1個のそういう無駄なり改善が結果的には1年経ち2年経ちすると大きな
Think about
結果が
it.
出る
Maybe every day you might think, it's so small, it's nothing. But think about it. 1 year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, the result that you get from piling up those small things.
それが
So, small things, Seki Sho Idai, pile up positively, but here's the big one. If you're no Kaizen, Mr. Amazawa told us last night, you're in what? Decline. Small things pile up positively to a big result. This is what I've learned. But also decline if you're not doing Kaizen. Seki Sho Idai. Very powerful. These two concepts are riveted in my brain. I see it with him. So now, that's it. You have an opportunity. Questions? Go ahead. Magdi. Mr. Amazawa, Seki Sho Idai, baby steps to giant strides. This is Toyota thinking. None of this is complicated. You make it complicated, you're a fool. Magdi. There you go. Take my mic.
Thank you very much for all the informations, and we learning, and we still keep learning. My question is relevant in a way, but for me is strategically. We heard recently China producing loads of electric cars, and they stored it. In terms of inventory, we just touched about that. Is that a smart move from China towards storing a big manufactured electric cars at the time? And why did they take this approach? Or is it a good or smart approach from China to do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that from a long-term strategy, what China's doing is going to be effective. So your question, why has China, give me 15 seconds, why has China
reached this position, and is it a smart move from them to do that?
the position of,
Storing electric, manufacturing electric cars. They
you mean
stored.
focusing on electric cars?
No, they already manufactured and they stored them. They are in storage now.
Oh, well, I mean, that's total insanity. He wants to know whether or not the overproduction, is it a good move that China is producing massive amounts of electric cars that haven't even been sold? I mean, this is, in my opinion, stupidity at the highest level. That's why they're blowing up buildings left and right everywhere, because they overproduce. And he said, what did he tell you was the number one waste? Overproduction. Don't ever forget that. Okay? Why does Toyota do just in time? Because they were broke. They had no money. He said, you're wasting your money. You're putting all your money in inventory. So the answer is no. Next question. Go ahead. Stephen.
Yeah, when you walk through your factory and spot a waste, how do you address it? Do you address it right the moment you see it to the worker
Good
who's
question.
working there,
Good
or
question.
how do you do it?
I've seen him do this. It's a great question.
まず特に作業者の動き。
First, what I'm focusing on is not process. I'm watching my people, how they're working.
それを見たときに、これでいいのか悪いのかは、職場のリーダーに、一言言って僕は帰ります。
And I don't tell everyone, I don't talk to everyone because they're working, but I talk to the team leader. I don't say too much, but I tell my opinion to the leader. Hey, I saw your people working this way. I don't think this is correct. So I want you to think about it, and he leaves.
Exactly what Mr. Amazawa said last night in the way he works with people on the Gemba. Correct, Mr. Amazawa? Yes, he'd go, yes. Okay, next question. Let's rapid fire. Get ready. You got him for 5 more minutes.
Check. Okay, what mechanism do you use to make improvements? Either small improvements or bigger improvements. I'd like to hear how you do this.
How do you approach making an improvement, right? What are the
Continuously.
steps to making an improvement, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
改善するときはですね、やっぱりステップがあります。一つの大きな改善をしたいときには PDCA、要はプラン、ドゥ、チェック、アクション。
You know PDCA. We follow the standard PDCA
これに
when we
基づ
do
いた
any Kaizen.
Plan, do, check,
プラン、ドゥ、チェック、アクション。
action.
これが回っていくわけです。
So we always use the cycle.
まあ、これを管理、管理という。
Did that answer the question enough for
Well,
you?
I'm curious to know, is it a daily thing? Is there a routine? Is there a kata to do improvements? Or is it done by a team, say, or?
Yes, they have Kaizen leaders in their company, in every department, that he would identify as an issue, or they would identify. They do it without him. Believe me, they do it completely without him. But they would then look at it, make the plan, make the analysis, go through that cycle.
やっぱり改善の中身によってね、それぞれ違うけ
So
ども、
there is different method depending on the size or what kind of Kaizen we are going
ま
to
ず現場の
approach.
中から現場の方から、そ
So
の話がある。
first, it's so natural for our people to tell us or leaders what the problems are.
だからその時
first.
に、現場を巻き込んで改善チームを大体5、6人作る。
So in that case, then we suck one problem, then we will collect 5 people who are good at Kaizens, and including the person who indicated the problems, and we make a Kaizen team.
でそれをできるだけ、回すこと、先ほど言ったようにプランとチェックアクションをやりながら、
はい
目的に達成しなきゃまたもう一回やり直す。
Then I will let them try. Give some time, try it. Then if it doesn't work, and then I will ask them, what do you need? Material needed or money needed or what do you need? I ask them and then try to make them
Mommy, let me
successful.
repeat. So the person who identified the problem and 5 Kaizen leaders, and those Kaizen leaders, because I've seen it happen, everyone will be responsible for a different portion of that potential improvement if necessary. Is the question answered? Okay, okay, next. Say your name too. I have 15 more minutes?
15 seconds left?
Have we've used this time efficiently. Holy mackerel, good.
Okay, my name's Nigel. Okay, you have such a phenomenally low rate of defects. Your suppliers obviously is a huge contributor to that. How have you managed to develop them in the trust levels that obviously contribute to such a low defect?
I want to understand one more time, Nigel. Say the first part of the question. I didn't get it.
There's such a phenomenally low defect rate
Right.
of, 35 defects per year, which is over 116 million
100 yeah,
parts.
exactly.
The suppliers will have a pivotal role in that.
Oh, absolutely. So,
How has he developed the suppliers to be in line with his goal?
you understand the question. The answer is everybody who works with them is in the Toyota eco chain, whether they're tier 3, tier 4. Remember, Mr. Amazawa said the problem was in the tier 7 and the tier 4. They're all doing massive Kaizens. They're all exactly on the same boat. You can't get into this world unless you're thinking this way. So it's do or die. I'm going to answer the question this way, and then I'm going to answer it. Did you read my book, Banish Sloppiness? If you didn't, it's no problem.
Yes, I did.
I talk about a rice culture. In there, I talk about a rice culture. The rice culture is basically this. Everyone harvests, everyone plows the field, everyone tends the rice. If you don't, you're kicked out of the village and you die. It's that simple, okay? When you enter into this world, you're operating at a very high level of awareness. Yakusoku Mamoru, I will keep my promise, and Gambarimasu, I will do my best. This is the way they think in this world. That's my answer. Let's see if he has anything he wants to add to that.
実はね、これにはいろいろと訳がある、理由があるね。それ一つには、トヨタは、不良というものはゼロなんです、目的は。目標はゼロ。
Okay, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Toyota
ゼロです。
accept zero defects.
それはなぜか。
Why?
ない。
Toyota doesn't accept any defects from you.
これは例えば車を一人購入しました。だいたい一人一台しか買わない。
Let's say in Japan it's very common that one person try to buy a car is a big deal. Maybe you buy a brand new car once a lifetime. So buy the car, Toyota.
ね、そうします
Imagine you
と
are buying the car from Toyota.
その一台に不具合があったら
Let's say if you're driving and you feel defects from the car,
買ったお客さんは
how would you
100%
feel?
悪い車を売ったということになる。
Wow, Toyota produces bad car. I'm not gonna drive that anymore in my life.
だから PPM 管理をしますと、じゃあ何台かは不具合が出てもいいん
Sure,
だよ。
PPM maybe matters, but to Toyota or us, PPM doesn't mean anything. What do you think?
だから我々には PPM はないんです。
So we don't, the PPM does not exist in Toyota world, period.
Right. So think about Lucas's talk. How you feel, act, talk. Isn't it interesting that it dovetails perfectly with Toyota's thinking? How would you feel if we delivered a car to you with a defect? It's not part of the equation. We don't do that. Next question.
Hi there.
More?
Well, they asked me a question I was going to answer. How did I feel?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go.
I guess the biggest challenge for me to understand, having worked in automotive as well, is inherent defects within like steel production and stuff. It's how that gets captured, before it gets to you, because that was always a massive problem. There was a defect in the steel that was not found until we manufactured the part. Or plastics is another fine example.
Are you saying the defect is in the steel that they receive from the vendor, and that potentially is what the problem?
From my experience and working in the industry, we can inspect the steel sheet, see no defects, and once we produce the part, a defect appears. There's been an inclusion or something in the raw material.
I've been to Isuzu Steel, who supplies for them, and they have exactly the same standards that Mifune has. They go through all the same processes, all the same Kaizens, all the same quality assurance. It's the same. So it's the rarest thing that anything ever gets through. And honestly, everything I've seen, 99% of these defects that get through, that are identified as defects, they don't matter. They're cosmetic. They're not structural. And they're still not acceptable. In the book, I talk about what is it about the Japanese they see in super high detail. Is it because they're Japanese? No. They've been trained to observe and see in super high detail. We, the title of my book, are sloppy. We don't see these things. Our culture doesn't expect that from us. Their expectations are insane. Insanely good, in my opinion. Did we answer the question or no?
Yes.
Okay, next question.
Hi.
What's our time? Rob. What's our time? What's our time? I want to be right on time.
Just a very quick question. One of the accidental themes of the summit seems to be that failure is an opportunity and failure is a learning. And Mr. Amazawa last night was very humble, explaining some of the failures and the challenges. And Mifune is obviously now very well developed and 45 years. How have you, Mr. Umemura, dealt with the real challenges, the real failures? Have you had any, and what's your experience been in that space?
Personally, how does he personally?
He's
まあ
thinking.
今の仕事ではね、そんなに挫折するということはなかったですね。まあ順調に右肩が上がりで大体来たもんですから。ただこのコロナの3年間は非常にきつかった。
So, to be honest with you, I just truly enjoyed my life working at Mifune. But until COVID, past 3 years during COVID was the worst time of my life.
だからコロナの時にやはり、トヨタがラインを止めたり動かしたりとかいうそれが非常に今までにないねそういうその、動きをしたんで。
So we first time experienced variation from Toyota. Toyota never had a variation.
Which the Japanese word is mura. The variation is not in the Toyota system. That is one of the things they focus on. So this caused a nightmare to him.
まあ仕方ないんでね、その改善をさせたりいろいろなことで問題は人をどうやって、そのコロナの時にね、
So what was the most challenging part during the 3 years was how can I keep my people, make sure they are still motivated, make sure they are not too stressed out because of no production. So that was very, very difficult for me.
やっぱり特に人の問題が、コロナの時にはですね。
So I think the answer there a little bit was he had instability in the supply chain, but he tried to create stability with the workforce because he knew that was the key. If he had people laid off, coming and going, it'd be very difficult. Does that help at all? Okay. Okay, we have another question. We have 2 minutes. Go, Alex. Okay, let's rock and roll and see how fast we can go get through them both.
Mr. Hamamura-san, when I was in Japan, I asked you a question that blew my mind. Is you spend a lot of time in Gemba, and when you describe me your agenda, you spend 90% in the shop floor, whatever that was, 10 hours or 9 hours in the shop floor. Now you're telling me that you address the issues, the muda that you see, you address them with your supervisors, your leaders. How do you train those leaders to execute? Because they are the key to turn that thing around. How do you invest? What do you do to develop those leaders that execute?
So それはやっぱりですね、誰でもいきなり中間層にはなれないんで、
So we don't just hire the middle management.
まずは現場を知ることが大事だし。
So those management needs to understand 100% about the gemba.
だ
They
から
need to
そういう意味では
understand what's going on.
今大体我々の今現場のリーダーというのは大体30代。
So we have about we have our middle managers or the team leaders. They're about 30s, age of 30s.
だから会社入って10年とか15年ぐらいが
Which
多い。
means they are spending with us minimum of 10 years
そういう人
together.
たちをやはりいろいろ体験をさせながらやっ
So
ぱ
the
り人材
key
育成を
to
する。
become a good leader, or I train them, make sure they can have different experiences from different divisions. I try to give them opportunity to experience different divisions.
Alex, okay? We could talk for hours, but I think that gives you some solid places to go. We're done, correct? I would love to answer more. One more? Go ahead. If I go over time right now, it's not my fault. 2 minutes, go.
When was the last time you had a judoka stop the line defect in Mifune? And what was the sequence of events that you put in place to rectify that?
I can answer the question a little bit. So when I was there last, they were bringing on brand new Toyota parts, 250 new parts. And the first time the mold went in, it was the first time it had gone in when I was there. And we sat there with a team of people telling them it was going to be a 5-minute mold change. It was like a 15-minute mold change. So this was a clear example of stopping the line. I'm 99% sure they scheduled additional time in the production because everything is timed to 10-minute slots at Mifune. Everything runs like it's a clock. But that took 15 minutes longer, so it would screw up the entire production. So I would imagine they scheduled that in until they found all the problems and issues. Yeah. How do you deal with a judoka stopping the line? Correct? You have a defect. What do you do?
我々新しい新製品を流すときには大体トヨタから受注するのは2年前に大体実施。
So, as Paul explained, is when we have a new product, new model launched, Toyota always give us order 2 years in advance.
でそれから生産準備の中で
Then we
今言った
prepare
問題
the
点は全部洗い
line,
出
we
す。
prepare the mold, and we all take out all the problems, all possible problems in ahead,
で
and solve them.
まあ5口という本生産に入った時にはトラブルはもうほとんどないように。
So when you're really first day producing, we have 0 problems
だから
because
そ
we
んなに
prepare for 2
大きな
years.
トラブルはない。
So we don't have big problems. So
The answer is, what he's indicating is that the parts worked. But when I was there, they had some adjustment times because remember, he gave us something very powerful. I've never known this before. They always strive for 2 things on their tool changes. Anyone remember? No tools and no adjustments. Say it with me, no and no adjustments. This is the way they think. So when I was there, they were making some small adjustments. It was the first time it went in, but the part was correct. JB, okay? Okay? Let's thank Mr. Umemura. Okay?